Alright, hello everybody, and welcome on in. We've got Patorikku and Funknasty here, about ready to start up their first race of our turn. And with me I've got Captain the Dorks, and I'm Shanezel.
Hello, hello.
I believe we'll be ready to start in a few seconds.
Yep, counting down now.
Alright.
Good luck, runners.
So, I guess we'll start by going over party composition here. Both of these runners are going to be using the standard composition that most runners are doing now, which is a fighter and a black belt / monk for your melee damage, with 2 black mages. We've got about a 2-minute cutscene to sit through here before we actually get into the action. The first 8 minutes of the run, a good portion of that is in cutscenes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's the most reset-heavy section when runners are going for a good time, with Garland and also getting to Provoca without dying. So it can be a little tedious for these starts sometimes if you just get stuck in the first 8 minutes.
Yeah, and a lot of times people will just decide, you know what, this is a bad start, but I don't feel like watching the cutscenes again, so I'm gonna try and work it. But here in our race, we get to deal with whatever happens. It's all about adapting to whatever RNG throws your way, because oh boy, there'll be a lot of it. This game has a lot of RNG we all get to deal with. It's a pretty simple run to learn, but it does take a little while to master. So we've got another 40 seconds or so before they actually get to start moving around. And once we do start moving into town, we're going to buy a rapier for the fighter so we can actually do some sort of damage, and some chainmail for him so we can actually tank a few hits. The monk doesn't need anything. He just gets stripped naked, and that's going to be his gear set until endgame.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting with the monk and the damage and defense he gets without any gear on. Toward the end game, he starts to really be able to do a lot of damage, and without any gear on, he's able to tank a lot of damage as well.
Which really helps because our black mages, they take up all the money in this run. Their spells are quite expensive. So Patorikku's selling off his starting gear already, so he doesn't have to worry about doing that later on in Elfland.
Looks like they're both going to go with the standard double thunder setup on their mages. In the early beginning game, pretty much everything is not resistant to thunder, so that makes it much better than fire in this case.
Yeah, fire is great against undead, but mostly useless on everything else compared to electricity. There are only a few enemies in the whole game resistant to electricity, actually, while quite a few resist fire and ice. And looks like both runners are going to be setting up auto battle, which not everybody does. It can be risky.
Ooh, crazy horse setup on Funk.
Crazy Horse is a good start, It's a fast fight and gives enough XP so you'll be level 3 after you beat up Garland.
Well, it looks like also Funknasty's going to get a second encounter.
Yeah, unfortunate. Getting 2 fights is not ideal unless you are really, really hoping to get the extra XP and it's a fast battle. Like a single enemy or maybe 2 enemies. Large groups of enemies take a long time for you to beat up at this stage in the game. Garland going down for patorikku.
Yeah,
It almost was a... You could take out your mages real fast with Garland. He can do up to 30 points of damage in a swing. At least on the NES he does up to 30 a swing. I'm assuming it's pretty close to that in this version. I don't think they altered his strength at all.
I think it's pretty similar here. Looks like Funknasty gets through without any major damage as well, so they both get through Garland unscathed.
Which is nice, because having an early mage death on Garland can really shut you down for the early game. Because it'll be quite likely your mage dies again before Provoke, and then next thing you know, you have a mage with 20 HP while you're sailing in the ocean. And you don't want that, because a shark will eat him up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Funk was also able to make it to level 3, so I didn't see the HP level ups there, but a little bit extra HP when crossing the bridge compared to patorikku. I think patorikku only has 226 black mages for their health.
Yeah, so in this version of the game, your characters have set level ups and random level ups for all of your stats, but the most important one we care about is HP. So at level 2, the fighter gets a strong level up, and same with the monk. So they get their vitality divided by 4 plus 1, with an additional 20 to 25 on top of that. The black mages don't get a strong level up like that until level 4.
Yeah, and that makes the walk to Provoca to get level 4 very, very important for both the black mage and the monk. The monk is able to get an extra hit off, as well as the fighter, I believe, is able to do more damage, and the black mages get their forced good HP up, so they're more likely to survive that pirate fight if they didn't get a random good level up for their HP.
Yeah, and the fighter gets a second swing by the time he hits level 4, which makes it so he can do enough damage to one-shot the pirates, which is generally what the runners are hoping for by the time they get to Provoca. And this cutscene that patorikku is on now is going to be the final cutscene for the early part of the game that we have to deal with. It's about 1 minute and 45 seconds long. It feels like an eternity, though.
Definitely is a good chance to just get situated for the run here until I believe Dwarf Caves our next short break, but pretty much the runner's only chance to put down their controller for pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah, it would be nice if this came like an hour into the run. It'd be a good break, like cool off your hands and get ready for the second half, but no, all in the beginning. But yeah, after this cutscene, there are a few enemies we're going to be hoping for. Mostly ogres. Ogres are 195 experience and gold. And gold is the name of the game for the early game. We need to be able to afford all of our spell. They're the best enemies to see by far. But it's also not bad seeing lizards or like single gigas worms, just for fast fight.
Yeah, definitely. That's what makes this first 8 minutes here very important, because like Shane said, gil and experience we were talking about earlier. Without that, pretty much it's usually a reset for the runners, but here in a race, they just have to deal with what they get. Looks like patorikku got a crazy horse to begin with, which is a nice first encounter if he doesn't get hurt too much.
And then his bottom mage has some hit points.
Oh, so he did get a good HP level up. That's good for him.
Yep, at least one. It's helpful to have it at least on one mage.
Oh, and Funknasty getting hit with the 4 crazy horses, which would be really good if you can get out of it alive, but it can be very
Yeah,
detrimental as well. As you can see, for his first Black Mage got hit and one of their horses just fled.
and if he wants, he can return the title screen and just take a different battle, but looks like he's just going to carry on. Because when you hit the bridge, the game does autosave for you.
Looks like Patorikku got blessed with an ogre encounter. Looks like it went really well.
It came with 2 Gigas Worms, but the battle went well, which is what matters.
Oh, and Funk getting hit
Funknasty,
in the 4 set.
he's not getting the luck. So
Luckily,
he's
he is level 3 here, so it shouldn't be too hard on him to take this Pirates fight, but wasn't able to get really any good start for Walk to Provoca.
his money is low, so he's not going to be able to afford buying double tempers like Patorikku's doing right now.
Oh,
Looks like he's gonna try it. Hopefully he
go for it.
notices. Yep, he can buy 1 temper, but he can't buy the second. That's something you have to. You really have to worry about your money in the early game, because it can set you off based on the encounters you get and if you have unintentional deaths.
Oh, definitely. It could mean the difference, especially once we get to Alfheim here in a few minutes, the difference between being able to go straight to Marsh Cave and having to grind for another 3 minutes.
And we'll see the difference of their fighter damage here. Being level 3 for Funknasty, his fighter is not guaranteed to one-shot the pirates, while Patorikku's will be able to take them out every time.
Yeah, as well as looks like its mages also are stuck at 27 HP. They'll get a HP level up here if they survive, but otherwise they're really risking getting killed and him having to revive.
Patorikku takes out the pirates. He didn't get a leather shield drop, at least I didn't notice one. It's something you like to see early on. Extra safety for your fighter. And Funknasty gets through with 1 death, but at least he gets through. He can now revive, buy that second temper if he wants, then use the inn, and he'll be right on track.
Patorikku starting off his inner scene counters, looks right here. He got 3 green Sahagins and 1 chief, which is not too bad of a fight, but pretty easy to start out with.
Yeah, it's not terrible to start with this. The Sahagin Chiefs are the second best enemy in the sea to actually come across. The best being Kaizokus. Kaizokus are not that threatening, and they also give you 120 bucks a piece, which is the most we can get from 1 encounter. And Funknasty having some great luck there with that NPC. He loves to block your way.
Yeah, you'll see most runners go get their temper before they fight pirates because that NPC is not in that alley. But if you get it after the fight, he's very well likely to block your path there.
So sharks are pretty deadly at this point in the game. They have 120 HP, but 0 defense, so they're not too difficult to take out, but they hit pretty hard. And they're also not worth a lot of cash, so you don't want to see too many of them early on. The worst enemy to see are the big eyes. They are only worth 10 XP, 10 gold, which is the lowest out of anything in the ocean, and they can also paralyze your party members, which just makes every fight take more time.
Yeah, kind of like we're seeing on Patorikku's screen right now. He got hit with double eyes and 6 green Sahagins, which just generally is just going to be a really slow fight and not really net you much, unfortunately.
And Funknasty's going to go back to Provoca here to try to revive, because he lost half of his team in that first battle. It kind of sucks. You hope that you can make it closer to Canaria, because the resurrection cost is as much.
Yeah, it's just one of the things about this game where as you progress from town to town, there's better items, better weapons and armor. But unfortunately, the inn and the church costs just exceedingly more the farther you go.
So it looks like he did not have enough money for the inn. So he's going to be a little strapped for cash now. So it looks like he's probably gonna have to load up his autosave from leaving town. And Patorikku's gonna try to farm up some more money. He's not getting the greatest encounters either. We want to see those Buccaneers, because we have some expensive spells to buy in a second. Thundara will cost us $1,000.
Yeah, the sea fights, you're going to get a better average encounter for Gil and experience-wise. Up to 600 from the 5 Buccaneers, where you can get the very rare double ogre with the single ogre chief, which is going to give you 690 Gil. So a little bit better than the 5 Buccaneers, but it could prove deadly depending on where your team is at for health, as well as it's a little more rare than some of those really good fights on the sea.
Oh yeah, it's actually a lot more rare than the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are supposed to be 25% of the time. It feels like they're way less than that, but that's what they're supposed to be. And the Ogre Chief battle right around town, I believe it's closer to like a 2% battle.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's all just playing on the luck. So Patorikku got his spell, and he's gonna go farm up some more cash in the ocean. And Funknasty got enough to use the inn. That's what's important. So he can actually go across the ocean. That's one thing about buying those temper spells early on, is sometimes it can set you back if you get unlucky. But at least he got some Buccaneers to try to make that up a little bit. This will be 360 gold in this fight.
The mage going down immediately. It's unfortunate.
Now your bottom characters in this game have a 12.5% chance to be targeted. So about 1 out of 8 attacks is going to hit each of your black mages. It feels way more common than that, but that's the odds anyways. This big group of Sahagins and Big Eyes can really take a lot of time to fight. Sadly, in a race setting, you have to take what you get. But it's not something we want to see very often, because it takes a long time and it's not worth much. But right now they're going to be trying to earn up cash to prepare for Marsh Cave, which is our next major destination. We get to fight the first real boss of the game. Garland and Pirates are just like a warm-up. They usually don't do much to you that's very threatening. The Pisco Demons coming up, they can easily wipe your whole party.
Yeah, and Pisco Demons are very interesting for elemental spells. They're not susceptible to anything, but they are resistant to fire. So this is very important that we picked up the Thunder and Thundara here, because it's going to be the only spell that our black mages can know at the moment that's going to do the most damage.
Yeah, they're actually resistant to ice also, so you can't even try to use the Ice 1 spell that you can buy at Provoca, or if you leveled up to level 8, Ice 2. So Thundara is the best bet, and it just so happens that it's also the best spell in the ocean. So it kind of works out well for us.
Enrique looked like he had 1,100 gil to work with in the store there. He's probably pretty happy about that and be able to buy up a lot of items.
Oh, he did get a
really
5 Kaizoku pack. And on the way to Marsh Cave, you really hope that you don't see scorpions. Scorpions can easily take out your mages and poison you. A lot of enemies on the way to Marsh Cave and inside Marsh Cave can poison you. And our funds are really light right now, so we only have a few antidotes. And Funknasty is not having luck with his bottom black mage.
But he was able to get a few HP level ups there. Looks like it's 75 health, so...
Yeah, he finally has a little.
Yeah. One of the nice things about grinding for Gil here, though, is you're able to get some nice levels and hopefully get your black mages beyond being one-shot by most characters when you do the Marsh Cave dive.
Yep, once you hit level 8, your black mages get their second strong level up of hit points. So that should guarantee that they're into the 70s at the bare minimum. But you hope that they've gotten one random level up and now have 100 hit points, which still does not guarantee they survive one swing from Pisco Demons, but it makes it very likely that they'll survive one attack.
It looks like Patorikku started his Marsh Cave dive. He just finished his one encounter on the first floor and is on to the second.
I believe both of his mages are level 8, so he could have 3 Thundara charges for this cave. You only need 1 to 2 to beat up the Pisco Demons, but having an extra charge or 2 means you can take some other random encounters for good experience and money.
Looks like Funknasty's taking advantage of having a Thundera to do some of the really quick C clears by just cast all.
Patorikku's getting some good preemptive strikes here to get him through the Marsh Cave quickly.
Oh, he just got the 4 scorpions.
But he got out pretty quickly. If you fail to flee from them, it can be very painful for your team.
Yeah, not only do they do high amounts of damage where they could just start wiping your individual characters, but they also have a chance to inflict poison, which makes it a little tricky, especially if you run out of antidotes by this point.
So there are different strategies for the Pisco Demon fight here. Some people defend with all of their characters, except for the mage using Thundara. And others try to weaken them all up to kill them off in one round. So Patorikku got through with only 1 death, which is manageable.
There's no real wrong way to go about that fight. Like you said, either defend or attack to weaken up for that Thundara to clear out. Really depends on, you know, the turn order you get and how the Pisco Demons decide to attack.
Yeah, you have no idea. You could make both of your melee characters defend, and all they do is punch your mages. It's just how they feel like treating you. And you just gotta make whatever decision you feel is best. I like to defend because I don't trust the damage they can output.
Funk was able to make it to his item buy.
And looks like he's ready for Marsh Cave. More scorpions, but a quick flee at least. And they like the poison. They hit you twice, so they're more likely to poison than the other enemies we've encountered so far that only swing once.
Oh, Patorikku declined a double gray ooze, which is good for experience. But it looks like he's going to decline that in case for time.
I'm guessing it wasn't intentional because he's on auto battle. He was probably just fleeing from all encounters, would be my guess. But I could be wrong. He could just be trying to get away from everything as quick as possible. But a lot of runners have difficulties getting used to the auto battle. I still mess it up all the time. And I've played this game a good bit. Sometimes you just don't press that button quick enough.
Yeah, and there are some forced encounters. So the normal boss encounters, it will take you out of auto battle as it starts. But there are a few encounters that use some of the enemies that you'll see in your random encounters, that those fights, it keeps you in auto battle, such as the 4 Pisco Demons, the 9 Pirates, and later on we'll see it with another one of the encounters in Ice Cave.
It's actually pretty common to see people trying to flee accidentally from the Pisco Demons, which is like a guaranteed death. And Patorikku here is ready for Astos. He can really troll the team. Like, all of his spells are very powerful, and we just hope for good RNG to make it through the fight.
It looks like he's going to go with a Temper Strat to clear. And
But
Astos immediately kills the fighter.
that's the best character to have killed off here. He's the one that we want the least experience on in the run anyways.
So there's two main strategies that I see used a lot here. There's this Temper Strat that we'll see where they buff either the fighter and the monk, or just the monk, so the monk is able to 1 or 2 shot Astos. Or another strategy is to attack with the fighters and use Thunder and Thundara.
And there goes a slow, so the monk is mostly useless now. He's going to hit for probably the same damage, but Astos goes down.
Yep. So that's the one setback with using the fighters there. If you get slowed, it can definitely slow down that fight compared to if you're using the Thundara route. You're going to end up with slowed mages, but that doesn't do anything to their spell damage.
Yeah, slow only affects your melee number of swings. It will knock them down to 1 swing. I personally get greedy with the Astos fight and will just only spam Thunder and try to save all my Thundaras to the way back, so I can just clean up all the fights on the way back, which is good sometimes, but other times it bites you in the butt when you get slowed right away in that battle.
Definitely. And it looks like patorikku did get a Ogre encounter, which would have been a little faster to clear with Thundara. And that's one of those situations where having one of those on the way back is definitely going to allow you to take that fight and clear it fast.
And Funknasty's had some painful encounters here going up to the crown, but it looks like he's going to keep the death on his black belt.
Oh, and he did get a preemptive. Wow.
It looks like he's just going to do a double Thundara to kill them all.
Oh, he got really good turn order on that second round, able to clear without any deaths.
He is getting the experience on both mages, which is important in the early game. Your mages are your lifeblood of this run.
And here we'll see patorikku has picked up the second Thundara. That way he can do quick clears on the ocean here as he goes to pick up both Jolt Tonic and the key.
And he's going to keep his fighter dead for as long as possible here, because the fighter is soon going to be turned into a statue and is not going to need experience. So he wants to get all 3 of his important members of the party to actually gain as much XP as possible. And on the way through the ocean now, all we're doing is a few fetch quests, going around and turning in items, and during that we want to get as much experience and money as possible, because we have a large shopping spree coming up here.
It looks like Funk was also able to buy fires for both of his mages here. Probably picked him up as he was grinding for cash in Cornelia.
I didn't notice him buying fire. That's an interesting strategy. It can be useful on specific enemies. It looks like he's going to have to run back to Elfland to resurrect some of his party members, because he's looking a little rough on his hit points.
Here we have patorikku picked up the Jolt Tonic.
And the 3 treasure chests in that room are not really worth much money, but from my knowledge, every single runner I've seen has always picked them up, including myself, because our funds are just so tight in the early game that you'll take every free potion you can get.
And there's also an antidote there, so I mean, if you're going back on the sea here, it can prove a little treacherous if you don't have any potions.
Oh yes, and patorikku picked up the fire spell. Some runners like to buy fire on both of their black mages for going through Earth Cave. There are some undead encounters that it guarantees that you one-shot them, which Thundara will not guarantee kill.
It also smooths out Ice Cave a little bit as well, where you don't have to use Faraga charges as much. You can
Because
choose to use fire.
early Ice Cave, you have to struggle to gain intelligence. Once you've gained your intelligence threshold, then you can use Thundara to kill off all the undead. But early on in the cave, a lot of times you don't have enough intelligence, and Fire really helps you out.
And you see Funk going into Astos?
Yeah, I guess he decided not to go back to Elfland, so he's gonna try and two-man this. Which he can do as long as he gets some good turn order and a nice Astos. He's not getting good turn orders though. His fighter is attacking before each buff. But luckily with quick saving anywhere on the map, we can get right back into a fight if it goes south. And Patorikku here is picking up the key, so he can now get a bunch of free loot. And it's worth a lot of money, and we need all that cash for all of our spell purchases and supplies for a deadly cave.
Looks like Funk changed up their tactic here, using Thundara and Thunder while defending with the fighter, who's now be dead. But just getting hit by those spells.
Yeah, Astos is not a friendly encounter. If he spams his tier 3 magic spells, he can just take out your party very easily. You want to see him melee attack or like spam haste on himself. Those are like the best things to see. And he just wants that. He does not want that fighter alive. So I guess it should be said at some point that enemies in this game don't have a set spell list and order like they used to. Their spells are set, but in every other version of the game, enemies had a very specific order of what spells they're casting in order. So Astos would always start off with the death spell. In this version, that's not the case. He can start with whatever spell he wants.
Yeah, there is still, I believe, a probability on what he will cast, so more likely to cast some spells over others.
Yes. Certain spells you don't see very often because they are a low priority on the boss, like 1 or 2%. Like Chaos can use Earthquake, but you rarely see it because it's like a 2% skill. While other things like his melee attack is 40% of the time.
Looks like Funk is going to decide to go back to Elfheim to get those reses to give Astos a better show with more fighters up.
Astos is hard to take out with only 2 characters, because he's usually killing at least one person. And Patorikku's doing his final purchases before he goes on over to the Dwarf Cave.
So for Patorikku, heading up to Dwarf Cave and then probably on to Melmond. Melmond does not have an item shop nor a church, so until the runners are done with Lich after that point, they pretty much have no recourse for picking up items other than what they find in chests along the way.
Yeah, in the storyline, the vampire is actually the one who destroyed the clinic in Melmond. And so they want you to go get revenge and take out the vampire. Which we will get to. Vampire is not that difficult, but he can cause problems. A lot of the early game bosses can cause problems if they decide to attack your black mages. I mean, to be honest, almost any enemy in the game can cause problems if they attack the black mages. The black mages... Oh, carry on.
Funknasty Lining up his Astos here with another attempt with all 4 characters alive.
It should be a lot easier go for him, having 4 people alive now. He might decide to temper the monk now, because the monk will have 4 swings compared to the fighter's 2 swings.
Yep, double temper on the monk. Unfortunately, the monk attacked first, so we're going to have to wait the next turn.
I feel like that always happens. At least to me, I feel like that.
Oh, definitely. Especially on if you're fighting chaos at the end, looking to get a restore all off, and then just turn order gets in your way.
Unfortunate, double fire. In other versions of the game, he would not be able to do that. He cannot cast fire till like his 4th spell, I believe, or 5th spell. It's a little ways down his chain. And Patorikku's looting the Dwarven treasury here, which is worth a lot of cash. If you were playing casually, you would probably use most of that gear on your team, because it's good quality armor and weapons, but we're going all mages, so we're just selling it off.
Give some reference. One of the items, the Worm Killer, you won't see dropped by any enemies until about Sea Shrine, which is toward the back end of the game.
It's just kind of funny that it's dropped in the Sea Shrine. It's very far away, and by the time you're at Sea Shrine, that's not a very powerful weapon for you. Sleep isn't too deadly from Astos, at least you can get some damage out. And there we go. Astos was playing nice at the end of that fight. Sleep can delay the battle, but at least it doesn't actually hurt you.
Looks like Pat is going to force an encounter here right before Melman, but probably before he goes to the end. That way he can start his walk to Earth Cave with a full set of spells and quite a few steps before he gets that first encounter.
Yeah, I like to do that. A lot of times you can only get into 1 encounter on the way down to 1 or 2 encounters going down to Earth Cave. It can be nice, especially when you're just using the inn right there anyways. And it looks like Funknasty's got a mage with more HP than his monk. It's good for the black mage, but kinda sad for the monk. In the early game, we care about our black mage's HP way more than the monk. Late game is when we care about the monk's hit points, because he's going to be a statue also for quite a while.
I believe the monk also gets better forced HP ups than the black mages as well, so it's a little easier for the monk to catch up to where we want his HP to be.
Yeah, the monk has a few more strong level ups, but the monk actually doesn't get that many until you get up to like level 30. So the monk gets a strong level up at level 2, 6, 12, 18, 24, then 30. So he's got lots of gaps there. But then after 30, he gets another one at 32. And that's when you really feel the power. All of his health coming up all at once. So the monk's most of his HP is just based on his vitality, or stamina, I guess, in this version of the game. That's where he gets a bulk of his hit points, and you just hope for strong level ups. And Patorikku's on the the first dive through Earth Cave. We have to dive through the first part of the dungeon twice. And casually, it's actually really cool. In my opinion, it's really cool. Because you get to go through the first half of the dungeon, go collect all the loot. Then when you're out of spell charges and everything, you can leave. Do the little side quest, then come back with full spell charges and HP. But speedrunning, it's annoying, because we want to get through fast.
Oh, definitely. That's why you'll see most runners hold on to 1 cottage. So that second dive, they're able to avoid going all the way back to Melman for a heal, and just use that cottage before they go down the second time to fight Lish.
Yep, we do get a free cottage we get 2 free cottages, one in the marsh cave, and we get a second one in dwarf cave. So you have up to 2 that you could possibly have. A lot of runners will sell off at least one of them, because they are worth $1,000, which can really help you out if you need to buy your Fire Aga spells or Silver Bracelet.
I think we also get one from the chests. The chest in Cornelia?
I do think they actually did change one of those into a condition.
Patorikku getting the Cockatrices fight pretty early here for Cockatrices, which is good for a lot of hits to get those petrifies. Ooh,
that
nice
was very quick. So we definitely want to see the Cockatrice battle as soon as possible.
Oh.
Because we want to have some statues. Not 3 statues, just 2. He should have gold needles to resurrect his Black Mage, though.
And the Cockatrices also have a chance to drop gold needles here, so you could get lucky if you don't have any. And taking one of these fights, you'll get an extra gold needle to pick up whoever you need to get them unpetrified.
I feel like it's a pretty high rate to get the gold needles, but I feel like they never drop them when you need them, because that's just how RNG works. And he's getting more Cockatrice, which they're not terrible to see, but they can be very scary.
Yeah, definitely like that Black Mage got petrified once again. Oh, does he have another gold needle? He does. Good.
We could possibly switch over to Patorikku's volume. I'm not sure how to do that myself.
And Funk coming down to get the Mystic Key in Elfheim. While Patorikku is lining up one more encounter before Vampire.
So for Vampire, we're going to double Fire Egg, and he will be down in 1 round.
He also has the option, if he doesn't have a Firaga on one of his characters, he could use Fire in that chance since he did pick it up.
He does have Fire, you are correct. Yeah, he could just do 1 Fire Egg and 1 Fire then. That'll also get the job done. I forgot that he picked those up.
Really good backup strat if you do end up not having 2 Firaga charges, 1 per Black Mage.
And it's also handy if you are really light on ethers and you just can't afford using the extra one. Most people buy plenty of extra ethers, but some of us decide to be a little risky and only buy a handful of them.
Patorikku picking up the Star Ruby here. Very important after you beat Vampire that you pick that up. If you forget it, and leave, you'll have to come all the way back down. It's definitely a mistake I've made once before, forgetting that Star Ruby.
I was just gonna say I haven't seen anybody do that yet, but I'm sure it's happened to someone. I've personally forgotten other key items, like the crown, in other versions of the game. This one, it gives it to you automatically because you have to open the box. But unlike the NES, I've forgotten that before. And that...
Name a more iconic duo than speedrunning and forgetting to get a key item.
I know we'll see it at some point during the tournament. Somebody's going to forget to go translate the Rosetta Stone. Not necessarily one of these 2 runners, but somebody's going to do it. Because that's the most common one to forget. I've forgotten it on numerous occasions, even playing the game hundreds of times. Sometimes you can still just space it. I mean, nobody really wants to go back to Melmoth, right? Not much in that town.
Oh, definitely, because by the time you go to talk to Lufinians, you're already 3 encounters deep from the walk of your airship down to the town. And forget, it's another 3 encounters back, and then the encounters when you come back, having actually learned Lufinian.
So while in Earth Cave here, the goal is to get level 12 before Vampire for Funknasty here, because you want to be 12 to have the Fire Ega charged. And for Patorikku, we want to hit 15 before fighting Lit, so that we can have 3 Fire Egas per Black Mage.
Any extra levels very, very helpful here. A chance that your mages, if they've gotten really good level ups for their intellect, reaches intellect 30, so that they get a 50% damage boost and are able to easier clear Wish.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for that to happen, but I mean, I've seen it happen in this tournament, so people can have that luck of good intelligence on their mages. It makes a huge difference having that extra intelligence. All these poisoning. That's why you always want to be sure to have a good amount of antidotes running through Earth Cave. If they just target your mages a bunch, you can run out of antidotes, and once you're out of antidotes, you'll start chewing through heal potions like crazy, running around poisoned. So we're gonna have Funknasty making it to the dwarf cave, so he can pick up all of his loot and blow open the canal. Yeah, I don't like taking a bunch of ogre encounters myself. Ogres chew through your spells pretty quickly, because you need at minimum 2 spells that take out the groups with the chief ogres in it.
2 spells, but I believe you should be able to use a Firaga Charge if you have it, and a Thunder on the chief to be able to clear that without much AoE spell usage there.
Yes, if it's a single chief,
Yeah,
then that is definitely possible. Or you could always hope that you roll high, because your mages can do 134 damage with their fire agent. Take them. But it doesn't happen very often.
And here's a spot on Patorikku's screen where we use that Star Ruby, feeding it to this golem here to get past and go grab the Earth Rod.
Yeah, we get to go see our secluded mage friend. Give us the key item to finish going through Earth Cave.
Well, here on Funknasty's screen, that cutscene we just saw is the last cutscene we'll have for the game until the end.
Yeah, the cutscenes near the end are not as long. We've got the airship cutscene and the Oxshale scene, and you could say the mermaid disappearing, but that's pretty short. But yeah, most of the cutscenes in the game are just those first ones. The ones that happen afterwards are a lot shorter, like 10 seconds-ish, so it's not a big deal. And something a little odd in this version of the game is right in front of Sarda's Cave there are a bunch of goblins that you could fight, if you're lucky or unlucky, depending on if you want to see them. I personally don't like seeing them, I feel like it's a waste of an encounter. But some people like to see them because it's easy to flee from them. Funknasty's coming down to Melmond and gonna do his final shopping for Earth Cave. We want at minimum the 2 Fire Ega charges. And some people like to buy silver bracelets for at least one mage to give them a little bit of defense. And depending on how much money he has, I'm sure he'll decide on that. Yep, he's a little short for being able to afford the silver bracelet, so just the spells.
One thing I don't believe we touched on as much is with the double black mage route, essentially the majority of the game, once you get your AoE spells, is that's the main strategy for clearing encounters until the end game, where we're going to actually grab our monk back up to do a lot of damage. But with the AoE spells compared to a melee route, it usually clears in 1 to 2 spells and targets all the enemies for a quick clear, quick encounter, and you're just on your way after that.
And we are actually going to keep the fighter petrified for the whole rest of the run. So when we get to town again, we can remove his gear. He is not necessary anymore. He's just going to be the best meat shield ever. Doesn't take any damage, and can still be targeted, which is unique for the Pixel Remaster version of all 6 of their games.
The only unfortunate side effect there is he does pick up a portion of the experience when you are clearing encounters there.
That's really nice when you're playing casually when your characters get petrified, because you like your characters to all gain experience. But for speedrunning, it would definitely be best if he didn't gain experience. But then we'd have to keep the monk around also, and that would make the run take longer. Just having to constantly tell the monk to defend in every single battle and heal him.
Yeah.
It could also make things pretty risky too, since he's running around naked.
And for Patorikku, we're seeing those fire obies come in handy here, as he's able to easily clear this undead encounter.
And the Wraith Inspectors are not guaranteed kills with Thundaras. You can kill the Wraiths, I believe, or the Spectres. One of the two you can kill with Thundara. But it's only like 75% of the time. So with a group of 5 or 6, you're probably not going to kill them all off. And it looks like our runners are back on the same floor, but sadly for Funknasty, he's got a little ways further to go, since he needs to pick up the earth rod still before he can finish the floor.
Meanwhile, Patorikku here is on floor 4, the last floor you can get cockatrices, the last chance you have to petrify your top 2 slots before you make the Lich dive. There are no cockatrices on the 5th floor.
And if you don't get petrified by the time you get up the Lich, you will have to wait until Ice Cave. And in Ice Cave, they are not very common. You can find them on the 1st floor, but it's not as often as here, because here you get so many encounters on floor 3 and 4 combined.
Yeah, especially with the double dive coming back down, you get a double dip on that chance to get that cockatrice encounter.
And Funknasty gets his cockatrice. A battle of 2 cockatrice is my favorite. It's not that deadly if you get a pack of 4 of them. It can be really scary, especially if they ambush you and just petrify half your characters before you get a chance to go.
It looks like Funk has his fighter petrified, which in my opinion is more unfortunate than getting the monk first, since the fighter does get targeted more often. Oh, but the monk is able to get petrified.
Yeah, getting the fighter petrified first is a little unfortunate, because the monk, it just seems like it takes him so much longer to get taken. He has less magic defense than the fighter, so he should get petrified more often, but it just feels like it just never happens. At least to me it feels that way. And weirdly enough, the black mages have a lot of magic defense, and yet one stray attack on them they can get petrified.
Here we're seeing a very strange occurrence of both runners are facing a boss that's within Earth Cave, but on separate floors. We got Funk going into Vampire with Patorikku at Lich.
And Lich is AoE spells it'll take 2 of them to kill off his mages, because they're both healthy enough they can even survive 1 Blizzara. And you just hope for Lich to play nice.
Double sleep, but they're able to wake up pretty fast there. Looks like an auto battle error with attacking with the mages.
Yeah, the sleep kinda... They both woke up instantly from sleep and like kept with their auto battle. Sometimes sleep can screw you up, but he made it through the fight with everyone alive.
He did, and this will be our first crystal charge here for Patoriku.
And Patoriku's had pretty good boss luck so far, so hopefully his luck can continue. But with how this game works, you never know.
Yep. Patoriku's gonna get a free teleport out of the cave, while Funknasty is gonna have to exit the floors manually.
Yeah, if only Warp was like a level 4 spell and didn't require class change, that would be nice.
That'd be nice. I believe that's something they brought in with Final Fantasy II with the Warp Tomes, when you can use those whenever you want.
Yep, Teleport and Warp. They're both usable like whenever, which is great. But not in this game, sadly. We get to endure. And so now Patoriku is going to be heading to Crescent Lake, so he can pick up the canoe, and we could head to, well, the game would want us to head to the next Fiend. And the sages that give us the canoe will tell you to do that. But we're going to ignore that and go to a harder dungeon first.
Looks like he might be buying some silver armlets here. Yep.
It's definitely safer having the silver armlets here. It can make your funds really tight when you get to Crescent Lake, because you're going to need to buy all the items you need for the next few dungeons, as well as buy the spells. The spells are going to cost you 26,000, which is a lot of cash for this point of the game.
Now, what's very interesting about the Crescent Lake buy is the item shop is lower on the map, so you usually enter it first. So if you make a slight mistake in your item shop, you might not have enough money for the fund, I guess, and have to go back and sell items for half price of what you bought them for.
Or go back outside and try to farm for some money, which is doable. The fights outside there can give some pretty good money, but it all just depends on if you want to spend the time to do that. And so we'll notice Patoriku likes to park his boat in the earliest dock tiles possible. And that is because when you're walking on the dock itself, those are safe tiles that don't increment your steps to getting another encounter, which is something that lots of players do on the NES. So if you're accustomed to the NES, it's something that you can really easily do on other versions as well. Funknasty here is on his way to go give the ruby over to the Titan.
I just find it interesting, the difference in names between the Pixel Remaster and the NES version.
Yes, I really try to say the correct names based on the game that I'm playing or observing, but I can slip up quite often because I'm used to the NES names for everything. Yeah, he is going to be real short on the amount of ethers that he wants to have here. So he might decide to go farm up some extra money or wing it with a small amount of supplies. But yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, that if you're not careful, you can spend too much money on your items and not have enough for the spells, but Patoriku did catch it in time. They didn't complete the purchase.
As he's talking to one of the wise men, he picked up the canoe, which will allow him to travel across rivers. Which is a little bit interesting that the only item you can grab there from the Circle of Wise Men is the canoe. The rest just give you mystic sayings about what's going on in the world.
Okay, that's actually a pretty good idea then. Selling off the cottage. It's not necessary. It's a convenience, really, to have it later on for a full heal and full restore for your mana. But selling it for 1,000, you can buy quite a few potions with that. And you you can just use the potions inside of dungeons, which is generally where you need them the most.
And that is always an interesting piece there. You can either choose to buy high potions or potions. Potions giving you a better bang for your buck, but high potions are much faster as they heal a lot more. So there's always the question to pick up potions or high potions there, depending on how much gil you have left in there.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime I'm short on gil, I'll only buy potions. But if I have the extra cash, I'll go for high potions. But with high potions, it's also a lot easier to waste the healing. Because a lot of times you'll throw that high potion when somebody's only missing like 80 hit points. And you're wasting the full heal on it, but if you're going fast, you're going fast.
And Patorikku starting his river encounters here. They have a propensity to be deadly sometimes, or quite easy, depending on if you get ambushed, how many enemies you're facing. They could easily wipe your mages within the first to second turn.
The fights are also worth a lot of gold and experience.
Yeah, so very high risk reward.
The Furgate, or the White Crocs in particular, are worth a lot of gold and XP. And it's nice to see them, but if they hit your mages, they can one-shot you. So saving on the river is generally recommended. And the Peds right there, they are worth a good amount of XP also, but not really any gold. Or Ankegs, whatever they're called now. They're Peds to me. Funknasty handing over his ruby to the Titan. And looks like he decided to make a pit stop to grab his silver bracelets. So he won't have to pick them up later on.
And Patorikku starting the Ice Cavern dive. You saw he used the tent there. Cottages are a full restore for spell slots and for HP, where tents, I believe, only restore 2 spells per slot and also have an HP cap.
I think it's 100 HP? It's one of the two, 150 or like 100 HP. Maybe 200, but that seems like a lot. And 2 of each spell charge.
So there's definitely a difference between that 150 tent and the 1000 cottage.
That's why the cottages are nice and expensive. They can restore 999 HP. We, of course, are not going to buy any cottages. We'll just use the ones that we pick up. And by the time you could easily afford cottages, you kinda don't need them anymore.
Usually by then we've maxed out our high potions, maxed out our ethers, and it's just a little bit quicker just to spam those high potions and ether just to get us where we want to go and continue on our way.
So this is another place where the fire spells really pay off. Because if you only have Thundara, they're not going to be one-shotting these undead enemies very well.
And here on Funknasty's screen we're seeing a Lesser Tiger. Lesser Tigers, the one enemy we definitely want to see here in the dive. They have a small chance of dropping an X potion, which is a restore all for health. Later on we'll use that chaos.
And you definitely want as many of those as possible for chaos, because sometimes you'll take out your mages real quick and it's just chaos and the monk. And the only way he can heal himself is using those full restores. So if you can get a free X potion or 2 from the Tigers early on, that's amazing.
There are some backup pickups for these restore alls that we can do, but usually adds on at least a minute of time. So if we get those lesser tigers, it's instant time save. We don't have to venture out of our way to get those restore alls.
Yeah, there are 4 set in the game. 3 of them are somewhat easy to acquire, and the 4th will add a lot of time if you go to pick it up. Because it's deep in the Chaos Shrine near the end of the game. And here's the cockatrice battle in Ice Cave that you can see. It's not common though.
And what's unfortunate about that, that was a pretty good fight if you were to take it, where you just have to take care of one mummy, but you'd want to force down that mummy to be out of the fight before you start defending. If you get a larger stack, say a 5 stack of enemies, you have a lot more setup there to do before you can start just defending to try to get that petrification.
Yep, and you can't even take them out with AoE spells, because they'll kill off the cockatrice before they'll kill off the mummies. Unless you happen to have white mages and you have to die a spell. But we don't use safe characters like the white mage. They're slow. The old routes used to use a white mage, and I actually enjoyed that route because it was a whole lot safer than this current one. But it was also a lot slower.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, the changes of routing for speedruns across the year. It just gets more and more riskier, and you're just hoping for better and better RNG to get you that time to save you those seconds and minutes.
Patorikku here is picking up the Levy Stone, or Floater, so he can now pick up the airship once he gets out of here.
So Serene Tortoise, currently Patorikku is in the lead right now in Ice Cavern, while Funknasty is in Earth Cave.
So yeah, right now, Funknasty is behind, but there's always a chance to catch up. A lot of the bosses in this game control you real hard and just not let you pass. Especially the final boss in this game. Sometimes it can take people 10 plus attempts to beat him. And that can vary a lot of time. So Patorikku is finishing up one of the scariest places to be casually. And even in a speedrun, it's good to make safety saves in this dungeon, because a lot of enemies can instantly kill you. And Funknasty's making it down to the 4th floor in Earth Cave.
Really good fight, a 4 stack of red jellies.
Yep, it's worth a lot of XP, and actually pretty decent money too, for the amount of effort you have to put into the fight. 1 fire and it's gone. If you have to use Fire Aegis though, it's not always the greatest to take, because you really want to save those Fire Aegis charges when you're this deep into the dungeon for the Lich battle, especially if you're light on ethers. Patorikku's got to make it over the river one more time, and then he gets to go sail over to his airship, and we'll have our fastest mode of transportation with no random encounters, which speeds up the second of the game by quite a bit.
The only caveat, though, unfortunate side of the airship is it has only a set number of tiles that it can land on. You can see them visually which ones you can land on, so that does limit. Kind of like the ship has to land in a port. The canoe only can go in on these rivers. It can only land in certain places, so there still will be some walking segments where we will see some more random encounters on the world map.
Yeah, the airship can only land on flat ground with no special terrain, I guess, like no deserts, no forests, no marsh areas, just plain old grass. Which is kind of weird because the airship comes out of a desert, but yet you can't land in the desert still. At least not in this version of the game. On the NES, there is one particular tile of the desert you can land on.
And we see Funknasty lining up their Lich setup.
They have pretty good points, so they at least can survive a Blizzara, which is always your goal of getting up to Lich, is hoping your black mages have gained enough health to survive one spell. They are not likely to survive two spells. That's just not gonna happen. You just have to hope that he only nukes you one time and the rest of his spells are status effects or meleeing your statues.
Oh, fire opener, not the best.
As long as Lich is nice though, he can still win this on the first try. Sleepra is perfect.
Looks like both mages don't have, they haven't hit the intellect threshold yet. So we're going to see a fourth turn.
The low is perfectly fine, and a double fire should be enough to finish this with good turnover. And there we go. Funknasty made it through first try also. It's always nice to see. And it looks like patorikku's probably going to go pick up his haste spells here. Some runners like to pick this up when they're at Elfland right after Astos, before the Earth Cave, and others like to wait until they have a little bit more money.
Yeah, it's something you normally don't see that haste pickup if you pick up the Fyra, because those Fyras cost 1,000 each, so you're usually not going to have the additional 2,500. Looks like patorikku did pick up 2 haste, probably just to give the impromptu change of who casts haste there in case of emergency.
Yeah, find that really haste you can only afford 1, so it can make some of the late game fights real risky if those bosses kill off your haste user before they get off a haste. Up his first full heal of the run, and it looks like he's going to pick up the elixir also, which is a nice safe way to go about it.
Looks like picking up both sets here.
So Cardia come with some free cash we can pick up. There are no encounters when you're inside the Cardia. Now walking to the little entrances you can get into random encounters, but it's not that many steps that have encounters on them.
Also looks like patorikku's characters have really good HP here, so we might see a good amount of fleas after 1 or 2 more level ups for the rest of the game.
Oh wow, yeah, his mages are looking really healthy.
Yes, so both players have beaten Lich so far, and they're setting up, it looks like, before they fight Kraken. And then we'll probably see Tiamat and Malorith. I believe patorikku does do Malorith not last, so we might see the order there a little bit different for both runners.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he likes to do, just based on how he likes to fly across the sky, he likes to do Malorith first, which is something I actually used to do myself, but then I caved and started doing it the way that everybody else does it. The waterfall is actually an interesting place that if you class change before you come here, which is what you're expected to do, you can teleport on out as soon as you're done with picking up the key item here, but we're not class changing because that takes extra time. We want to be fast. So the loot that he's going to be picking up here is worth a lot of money, and we also get our first ribbon. Ribbons are really nice because they give you resistance to all elements in the game, and most status elements also. You can still be affected by things like Slowra, but not that many things will hit you very often once you have the ribbon on.
It looks like Funk remembered that there was a few items he could sell. We were able to get a few extra potions there. Went back to the item shop to just give himself a little more of a chance to survive. And making those Thundiga purchases.
A lot of the fights here in the waterfall start to become worth pretty good XP. I mean, it's not quite as good as the Sea Shrine, which we will be up to in a minute, but the XP definitely starts to spike up a good bit here, so we can finally start getting some good levels.
And Funk picked up the canoe, so now both players have the canoe.
So is chat's asking, yes, both the fighter and the monk are petrified on both sides. The fighter is going to stay petrified the whole run. He is the true meat shield of the run, and takes no damage, and it still gets targeted 50% of the time by single target abilities. The monk is mostly useless in the early game, so we turn him into a temporary statue until we get to the hard bosses when we need to buff him for his melee power.
And with the game's programmed targeting of players, there's a much higher chance that the top two slots are going to be targeted compared to the bottom two. So it saves a lot of item buying there because we don't have to use nearly as many, possibly Phoenix Downs, but definitely potions, to keep that monk in a good HP range. You can just get him petrified, extra free target early on.
Yeah, saving money on the healing supplies is very important because we spend all of our extra cash on spells. And here Patorikku is going to buy a bottled fairy that we're going to release to acquire the next key item we need to get into the Sea Shrine. And as a lot of casual players may not know, once you buy that bottle, you can talk to the salesman again and purchase some special items from him that you can't purchase anywhere else. We will be buying 3 Giant's Tonics, and most people buy 3 Speed Tonics also, which we will be using on the Chaos Battle, and not before then. The Giant's Tonics, they increase your maximum health by 200 temporarily. So using 3 of those on the monk will increase his HP by 600. The idea is to get your monk up to 999 HP for the Chaos Battle, so he can survive whatever Chaos dishes out. And the speed drinks increase your number of swings by 1, which on the monk gets doubled to 2 since he's barehanded. Then when he's fasted, it actually becomes 4. So the number of swings he does increases pretty rapidly throwing those speed drinks at him. And Patorikku picked up some protect rings there, which are 8 defense for your mages, and it also prevents instant death abilities, like the Perilous Squint ability and the random death spells that enemies cast at you. So it's an extra bit of safety that we have on our characters that some people are able to afford.
Oh, Funknasty getting hit with a 7-pack of Pisco Demons, which can be quite nasty if you get a bad turn order, but able to get through it. Worth a good amount of experience, but could prove fatal there.
Yeah, you would definitely rather see a large pack of mummies and Cockatrice and just take them out in one spell and get a little bit more for it. The wizards or Pisco Demons can be threatening, that's for sure. These white dragons can be also. If they both spam Ice Storm on you, that can take you out right away.
Yeah, Ice Storm can do about 100 right there, so one might survive if they low roll, but it could easily both do 110 and take out your black mages, because they usually only have 180 to 200 here.
Or if you're unlucky, they only have like 150. And they can die to a lot of things, but both of our runners, mages, have at least decent HP.
And we see Patorikku heading on into Onrak, and further on into Sea Shrine.
And that NPC that Patorikku just walked around, on lots of other versions of this game, you can't do that. Because there's only one tile there for room to maneuver, but on this version of the game, they luckily were nice to us and gave us room to walk around him, so he's not in our way anymore.
The Sea Shrine is very interesting. Most encounters you can clear with either a Blizzaga or a Thundaga, with the slight variation where you'll need 2 spells, but as Shane was saying earlier, very good for experience, so if you need those last couple level ups to get your characters where they need to go, then taking these fights is very advantageous.
And it looks like Funknasty is going to pick up the Flame Sword, which I'm assuming he's going to use for just selling. It actually has a decent sell price, which some people do like to pick up for the extra safety net.
Yeah, hopefully that will allow him to be able to stop buying items a little early. Patorikku earlier looks like was a little short on at least where I would feel comfortable taking the end of the game with healing potions. But hopefully is able to pull it out and not have to buy any formula before the end.
I know some runners like to shop right after Sea Shrine, which is what I do. I do my final shopping right after Sea Shrine, and I don't buy anything else for the rest of the game, which can be risky if you use a lot of high potions early on. And we've got the Rosetta Stone, which we will have to take to Melmond once we are done with this dungeon. Because you don't want to forget talking to Dr. Un. And we also just picked up the Diamond Armlet, which is the best body armor for any non-class change character in the game, which everybody can also use. So it can be thrown on a black mage now, temporarily, until we bring the monk back up, so that the mage with that armlet takes a lot less damage.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of 1s and 2s when they get hit when they're wearing that. It's very, very powerful piece of armor here, just to limit how much you have to heal. With going fast, we definitely want to avoid going into that menu to heal and ether as much as possible, so switching between spells here, between Thundaga and Blizzaga, just so we can avoid opening that menu to save just a couple seconds per time, becomes very important, especially as we try to get faster and faster.
And something I guess we forgot to mention earlier, like Patorikku just fought a group of ghosts. Now on most other versions of this game, all ghost battles would be unrunnable. But in this version of the game, they are runnable. I mean, we actually don't mind to see them, because we can kill them with one Fire Egg, which is a spell that we don't use very often in the Sea Shrine, so it's actually nice to see them. But in other versions of this game, they're always unrunnable, and you have to take them no matter what, which is a nice change of pace in this version of the game.
For most pixel remasters, I know for especially Final Fantasy II and Final Fantasy I, they took a lot of the what would be unrunnable battles and made the majority of them runnable. You'll see mostly just boss battles where you can't run away from, but the rest it gives that opportunity just to run from those encounters.
I mean, you still have to take the monsters in a box and like the enemies that are blocking your path, like what Funknasty is just fighting right now. You still have to take those ones, and those are unrunnable. Which is actually a change, because when that was just a trap tile, you could run from it. But now it's like an actual forced encounter.
I believe the same that also changed up a little bit of the routing too, because what we'll see in a second here with Funk, we already saw with Patorikku, was Evil Eye is actually really good for experience, where on earlier versions they would farm it, where here we don't get that opportunity since that enemy despawns once we clear it for the first time.
Yeah, in lots of other versions of the game, we would farm the Evil Eye and actually skip almost all random encounters and just fight the Evil Eye for like 10 minutes real fast and run from everything else. And to just power up the team really quickly, because you can just take one step and get into another forced encounter with amazing experience and very low threat. But sadly that's not the case, so we get to take a lot more enemies.
Looks like Funk actually passed the Evil Eye, so we are now out of Ice Cave, going to head down and continue on.
Yep, and he's gonna get his airship and come up to the northern continent and do the 2 aquatic areas of the Sea Shrine and Waterfall. And Patorikku picked up one of the most important items in the game just a minute ago, which is the Giant's Glove. The Giant Glove casts a level 7 Black Mage spell called Saber, which increases your attack and accuracy, which we will be using on the monk a lot, so he can self-buff himself and just get ready to one-punch down all the bosses. It turns his attacks from like doing 80 damage up to thousands of damage.
It looks like Patorikku's going with a split strategy here. Has a spell set to go off, as well as a flee. Not really caring if the flee or the spell go off first. Take the experience, we get it, or flee if we can, kind of approach. He is within range for his final HP for the rest of the game.
Yeah, a lot of runners, once they hit that point where they're like, okay, I'm at the HP that I want to have, they can start putting in the fleas, so if they run, great, saves time. But if you just double up on the flee and you don't get away, it hurts. And it actually costs you more time than just taking the encounter.
We have Shreen Torx in chat asking if petrified guys gain experience. Yes, they do. So they are both able to be targeted with a assured miss. So essentially just soaking up any damage that would be there, as well as grab experience.
And since our petrified character is on the top slot, he has a 50% chance to be targeted by all single target abilities, and the second character has a 25% chance for the same. So with there being 2 statues up there, 75% of the time when we're attacked with melee attacks or single target abilities, it'll be on our little dummies there that just soak it up for free. And it's also a quick animation seeing that miss on them, compared to a character actually having to do animations to physically dodge it when it's like a melee attack, which is kind of nice. And we also don't have to tell them commands in battle, so it saves even more time.
And here we see Patorikku having defeated Kraken. That's our second fiend down for Patorikku.
We'll see here if Funknasty goes for the same of buying 3 tonics and 3 speed drinks. Some runners like to buy more than 3 speed drinks, and they'll throw them on other fiends. But 3 is common.
As well as some protect drinks, looks like. I'm very curious to see where those will be used.
My guess would be on Chaos. If his mages have extra turns, he could throw them on the monk to blunt the damage Chaos does with his melee attack, which can really help if Chaos gets a fast up, so you're not getting hit for 800. A couple protect drinks can knock that down to like 600, which could be a lot more manageable.
It looks like Patorikku did do his final, hopefully his final item buy there. after Sheesh Run, after getting a lot of gil, where Funknasty did something very interesting, where they went on land during this river canoe to grab a land encounter, which is usually a lot easier to take than these river encounters, as well as tenting up to prepare for the dive into Waterfall Cavern.
The land encounters can also have the tigers, which can drop the X potion. So it can also be for extra safety if you happen to get lucky. I personally like doing the land encounters just for that chance to get the X potion to drop, because it never hurts having an extra one.
And a very good encounter here. That green dragon is going to give a lot of experience for this cave.
It's one of the most lucrative enemies in the whole game to see, for XP and gold even, which seems crazy that he would give a lot of both, but the green dragons are worth quite a bit of XP and gold. And you can see them in larger packs once we get to the Temple of Being. And that fight can also be very scary. And in other versions of the game, it was also an unrunnable encounter.
Seeing here on Patorikku's screen, looks like decided to go to Mount Gulag before fighting Tiamat, as we talked about. We'll probably see the reverse on that for Funknasty. They'll probably take Tiamat and then do Mal'Aerith last, because Mount Gulag, you can access this pretty much first, so a lot of the enemies here are much weaker. You can pretty much run without having to worry about dying on these encounters.
And as you'll see, Patorikku is mostly walking on lava time. When you're walking on lava, your characters will take 1 point of damage, but they will not get into random encounters. You will still increase your step count for your next battle, but you won't get into the random encounter while on lava. So we walk on lava to push back the encounters as far as possible, so we're not getting into as many fights.
Funny thing we'll also see here is our petrified characters do also take this additional damage, but the tiles cannot drop them below 1 health. So most likely in these speedruns we'll see the fighter with 1 health going into chaos petrified, but taking no damage, which is just a fun sight to behold.
Yeah, it's pretty common for him to have 1 HP unless your fighter had some good strong level ups early on, which can happen, but a lot of times they're pretty close to having 1 HP. We'll see here, Patorikku's will probably have like 10. Close.
Now we're easily getting into the spot of game for Patorikku where the fiends start to get a lot more terrifying. Mal'Aerith here we're not too worried about for spell-wise, but the physical attack can cause us to have to reset if the monk is targeted.
Generally, her melee attack does only like 200 damage, so if you're full, you shouldn't be in much threat of dying, unless she does 2 melee crits on you, which has happened before, I've seen it. But Merilith was a boss fight we were supposed to do before entering the Ice Cave. So a lot of the enemies here we just ran from because they're not worth much XP, since we went all the harder dungeons already and saved her dungeon for last. Ooh, that was a lot of damage on the monk. Much more than I expected. Possible he didn't put on the diamond bracelet on the monk?
I do not feel respect for that now.
Okay, so that would be why he took so much damage, because he's naked.
And Funknasty taking that Neo Ochu battle on the river, the only fight where you can cast Firaga and have a really good result. Neo Ochu's giving about 3 times the experience that the Ochus would. A very good fight to take.
And they oddly don't have a weakness, but they also aren't resistant to fire like all of the other aquatic enemies. So you can use fire or ice on them, it's just fine. Not that we have any ice spells at that point in the game. but you can see them later in the Sky Castle when we do have Blizzaga.
We see Patorikku now making that walk we talked about earlier down to Lufinia. The one where if you did forget to translate up in Melmond, where you would have to make that walk twice.
That's the walk of shame when that happens.
It looks like we do have a streaming error on Funknasty side. Oh, and we're back.
Yeah, it looks like you could just have a little issues with OBS. I know my OBS likes to give me the finger sometimes. It can be annoying.
And Lufinia, the most RNG-based area of the game, where the NPCs just really like to get into your way on the way in and way out if you're unlucky.
Yeah, you just hope for no toga parties. They can all just group together and be in your way. Like this.
While we see Funknasty on to hopefully the final buy here. A lot of gil going into this item shop.
As asked in the chat, Chaos can be beaten with 2 characters, yes. You can even do it solo. I recently did a solo Red Wizard run, and didn't have any issues with Chaos, actually. If you are prepared for the battle, it can be done. You can solo him. It is difficult, especially at the levels that we are in a speedrun. And Patorikku is getting the very rare Tyrannosaurus battle. He is worth a massive amount of experience. Terrible gold, but that XP is nice. But yeah, for the most part, we're actually going to be soloing Chaos with the Monk. The mages are only there for support. They're not going to do a single point of damage to Chaos. It's all going to be the Monk. The mages are going to be there for casting Haste, Temper, throwing Giant Tonics, and Speed Drinks. While the Monk is mostly just going to be hugging that Giant's Glove to get all the Saber casts off. Saber is a stronger version of the Temper spell that has the added bonus of increasing your accuracy also.
Yes, I believe Saber gives 16 attack bonus, where Temper is only 14. Along with that additional stat increase, Saber is definitely a lot more powerful.
Something that we're going to use a lot more, because normally black mages end up dead and you still need to buff the Monk. So he usually sits there by himself for a little while, using Saber a few times. And a lot of these fights here in the Mirage Tower that Patorikku is in are worth an amazing amount of experience. But he's pretty much set, so he's just doing the flee strategy where he just tries to run and also cast spells. So whichever happens, happens. It's just which goes off first. All just trying to make it through as quick as possible. Funknasty is about to come up on the mermaid floor. So he can pick up his diamond bracelet and the Rosetta Stone. And some people like to pick up a few extra chests while in there for money, if they need it for their final shopping. I'm personally not worried about it, but some people like the extra safety net, which, you know, everybody plays their own way. If you feel like you need the extra safety of selling the items, by all means go for it. You're not losing much time picking them up. It costs you like takes a second to pick up an item.
And we saw Patorikku transition from the Mirage Tower to the Flying Fortress after beating that blue dragon.
The blue dragon is technically a boss fight, but he's about as weak as the Evil Eye was to our party. We just do so much damage and he doesn't have much health that we can kill him pretty quickly and with little worry of death. And we get the rare flare from the Death Knights. They have about a 25% chance, I believe, to cast flare.
I believe it's
Actually,
also much weaker than Chaos's or Lich 2's flare attack.
Oh yes, they don't have anywhere near as much intelligence, so it hits you all like the strength, but it still hurts. And if you're not healthy enough for it, it can take you out. As asked in chat, there actually are some mods and randomizers for this game. I know some people have done mods to try to make the enemies more balanced to the NES level, which are harder. And I know there is a randomizer for the game. I haven't played it myself, but I know it's out there.
I believe there's an online-based randomizer for Funknasty1. Looking at Funknasty's character's HP, it looks like we have just one more Black Mage that is getting near where we want them to be. Otherwise, looking really good for HP for the rest of the game.
The Monk is a little low, but hopefully that can be made up in the next few levels. He's only 24, so or 23, I mean. Once he hits 24, he'll have a guaranteed level up, and his HP will look acceptable. You definitely want to be above 350 HP by the time you get to Lich 2. Because you would like to have enough HP to survive a flare, which Lich 2 is very likely to cast. And Patorikku's about to start the fight with Tiamat, which is the first difficult battle of the endgame. A lot of people think that Tiamat 1 is actually more difficult than Tiamat 2, because her spells can hit pretty hard.
Yeah, for Tiamat 1, we'll most likely see here a high potion just to keep that monk topped off. Most of the time on Tiamat 1, you'll see the monk just being the last survivor here. With the Black Mages down, just trying to slug before the monk dies.
At most of our endgame fights, the Black Mages are just there to do a couple buffs and heal, and they generally die. If they manage to survive through a fight, cool, but it's not something that we're actually worried about. And there goes Tiamat 1, spamming those powerful AoEs. That's something that can definitely happen.
Yeah, if both Black Mages go down early, you're most likely going to see an unfortunate end here.
Consider Tiamat 1 harder than Tiamat 2, because Tiamat 1 likes to spam out those AoE spells quite often, while Tiamat 2 has some weak spells that she can cast.
Yeah, I believe, the spells are definitely a lot less powerful once we hit the Temple Themes.
It seems weird that seeing the monk get punched twice is actually a good thing, because her melee attack, as you saw, did less damage than the skills were doing. And Funknasty is picking up his Giant's Glove right now, once he finishes the Monster in a Box battle. It's an easy Monster in a Box fight, but it's one that we are just forced to take to pick up one of the most useful pieces of equipment in the game. And Patorikku has finished lighting all 4 of his crystals and can now enter the final dungeon. And also, the first dungeon of the game. Some people like to make an extra shopping trip here, but I believe he has plenty of supplies and will probably just go straight to the final dungeon. Funknasty171 is closing in on getting up to Kraken 1. Kraken 1 is usually not too threatening. We didn't touch on it much when Patorikku was fighting him, but all Kraken 1 can do is use ink or punch people. If he punches somebody, they're probably dead. But if he uses ink, it doesn't do anything.
Yes, one of the nice things about having ribbon towards the end of the game is a lot of things do either a lot less damage or nothing at all.
Purple worm. They are actually pretty easy to run from, but they also give great experience. So some people like to take them, while others just want to run away and get to the end of the game as quick as possible. I feel like having extra levels doesn't hurt, because you have more hit points, more things you can live through on the chaos fight.
It's definitely one of the make or break areas of the game here. There's a lot of good fights you could take for experience. Can be very risky, because there are long floors where you could get a 4-pack of green dragons, such as this, which could possibly end up wiping your team.
Yeah, the green dragons ambush you, and they all use their poison breath. That can take you out before you get a chance to do anything, even if you're full health going into it.
Well, luckily only a 2-pack of green dragons here for Patorikku.
And they only punch one person, so it's not too deadly.
As we see Funknasty at Kraken. Kraken's a pretty straightforward fight here with just casting Thundaga. Should be able to clear it within 3 turns. And looks like Kraken is now done.
Yep, 6 casts on Kraken 1 will take him out. And if he kills a black mage, you can actually throw a Phoenix down. And odds are that mage can still survive just fine, because he doesn't have any AoE to use him. It's just punching and ink. So if he takes a mage out quickly, just throw a Phoenix down and keep going with the fight.
It's very also fortunate at this stage, because usually you'll have 5 Thundagas here, so if your mage does go down and you got a few Thundagas off on the other mage, you can make up those attacks with the other mage.
Yeah, as long as you are at a good average level up, you can have 5 Thundagas. If you're a little behind in XP, you can only have 4, which can make it a little iffy, but you can still be fine if you just throw a Phoenix down. I was actually worried there that Patorikku wasn't going to grab the extra elixir there, but he did go back and grab it. He just wanted to clear the loot off of the floor first so he could walk around the backside. Not bonus X potion drop, even though we did find some more were-tigers. Or not were-tigers, saber-tooth tigers? I'm used to the NES names where they're just called tiger, because they didn't have room for all of the letters, which made some enemies have some funny names.
Funknasty also going for those extra restores.
It's nice having all the extra restoration items. It is a race after all, you don't want to be stuck on chaos for 20 minutes like I was the other day.
It's definitely something that happens in race scenarios. happened to you the other day, happened to me during the relay. You could have just the best game coming up. You could be ahead by 10 minutes just to be behind by 8 minutes after chaos is through.
Yep, sometimes he just doesn't play nice. And it will happen to you. At some point or another, it will happen. You'll see why people love to call it the casino. You just hope to get lucky.
Not only do we call it the casino because of chaos at the end, but also each individual fiend that we already fought will be refighting, and they have each their own separate attack that can wipe us.
The least likely to kill you is probably Merilith 2, but I've seen Merilith 2 get a fair number of kills. If she punches the monk, that could be all she wrote.
She could just start by punching whoever's in the second slot and working her way down, and after 3 turns, you're dead. And you have to reset.
And Lich has his famous double flare.
Or even a single flare, like we were talking about earlier.
If you don't have the HP, yeah. I've definitely made it to Lich not having enough HP, and just died the flare over and over again. If if the monk gets punched, there's the flare. 300 damage.
Everyone's alive.
His mages are very tanky, and black mages do have pretty good magic defense.
Oh, but there's the double flare.
Double flare, there's nothing you can do about that. Even if you brought a white mage, you're not surviving a double flare. Unless you have great turn order.
There's the commentator's curse right there for Patorikku on which one.
I mean, Patorikku did have a lot of really good early boss fights. It seems to be how the game goes. Sometimes you have good early fights, the later on ones will come and bite you in the butt. And I actually like healing the monk here.
Good strat, but I believe still within range. Oh, was able to get off the second heal, but no flare. That worked out.
I actually like to heal the monk even if he gets hit by a melee attack, just to make sure he's full.
And Lich 2 down for Patorikku. Interesting thing we'll see here, which we'll probably see a variation maybe on Funknasty's screen. The monk still is in the second slot. Some routes have you move him prematurely to the third or fourth, just to be a lesser % chance target.
I know some people like to keep the monk in slot 2 until they get to Merilith 2. That's what I do personally. I just leave him there and just hope for the best when I'm fighting Tiamat 1 and Lich, because they're not that likely to melee you, so I figure it's not worth moving them around much and worrying about your mages taking extra damage. That's what I do, and that's probably why a lot of other people do that also. But if you want to be really safe to keep the monk alive, it's best throwing him into the bottom 2 slots. And we will likely see it right here.
Yep, you called it. Oh.
And most people will leave the monk in the bottom slot now until the end of the game. Some people will switch it back for the random encounters, because the mages can get destroyed on the seafloor by water elementals. And all of our final boss fights here are pretty much the same exact strategy. Just buff the monk and hope he survives.
I see a lot of these back to back. So the first part of Temple of Fiends is a lot of floors with nothing going on, and then once we reach Lich, every floor subsequent has another fiend until we get to Chaos.
Matthew's about to be on the Blue Dragon floor, trying to catch up there. The Blue Dragon's not much of a boss, but he's still technically a mini-boss. Two more floors for Patorikku. I guess technically there's a third floor with one encounter on it. And
This
this
is
is
a
one
really
of the
good floor.
this is one of the best encounters you can take for XP. Those big eyes are worth a lot of XP. And they're not very threatening either. And it looked like he actually got a good intelligence roll on his Black Mage and was able to one-shot them, which is something I rarely see. The 400 damage.
Thunderga.
Yeah,
That mage might have 40 intellect. There's a chance.
That's a lot of damage from this Black Mage. See, that's a normal spell right there, 300.
Yeah, I would definitely say that bottom mage has 40 intellect, reached a very rare second threshold where spells increase in damage exponentially once again.
I'm not sure why they decided to throw in such large numbers. Like, there's no in between. Like, if every one intelligence made you do a little bit more damage, I would think that would make more sense and be not too difficult to program this day and age, but what do I know? I don't make the game. Kraken 2 here can be a real threat. Patorikku's monk does have good HP, so it's possible he can survive one punch if his black belt is full HP. But Kraken 2 also, ooh, a crit. You're not surviving a crit.
And unfortunately, bringing the monk back to life just resets him with all these buffs, so it's a lot easier just to take the reset here.
Yeah, because Kraken 2 also has Thundara now, which he has a decent chance of casting, which will do like 80 damage to your whole party. And if you just try to revive the monk and you're also throwing high potions at him, it's going to take you a while before you can start buffing again. Yeah, you just hope that Kraken uses Ink, punches the fighter, or worst case, only uses Thundara. Because you don't want him punching people and just taking them out quickly. Much better second fight with Kraken 2.
And down goes Kraken 2.
Now this next floor is very short. You only get one random encounter unless you get lost, I guess. Then you could get a second one. Now you could get a lot more encounters if you wanted to go grab the Masamune on this floor. But since we're using a monk, we have no use of that weapon. And Tiamat 2's same strategy as everybody else. Haste, Temper, Giant's Blow.
Tiamat 2 having the most of the fiends here with 5,500. It's going to take a couple extra attacks, but it should be pretty tame, unless we get a lot of bad turns in a row.
It generally takes 4 attacks from the monk to take her out, unless you really buff up a lot, or just get really lucky on your critical hits. And I definitely recommend healing when you're taking damage, because you don't want her to just punch you and kill you. Because she will do that when you don't expect it. One more hit should take her out. There we go. Patorikku's got one more random encounter, and then you'll be fighting Chaos. And Funknasty is getting near Tiamat 1. He just gets to do the long hallway and see if he fights Warmech. Warmech is pretty rare in this version, which is the case for most versions of this game. besides the NES. The NES has a higher chance of fighting Warmac than any other version. And that's generally thought of because Nintendo had like a take a picture with Warmac event a long time ago, and they wanted people to actually find Warmac.
And here we see Patorikku going into Chaos, the most RNG-based fight of the game. This could easily send a really good run into one that just has no chance of PBing. We're going to see, first we're going to see buff of the monk, just get the monk to a good HP area. And then we're going to see the damage buff that we saw earlier on for all the Fiend fights.
So you saw he used 3 Giant Tonics to increase his monk's hit points up to max. And he had bad turn order in round 2. That will happen, so the fight's going to be over. He's just going to defend until he dies. So, a question in chat, why is Stony a stone? Well, in this version of the game, petrified characters can still become the target of an attack, as you've seen here a couple times. You can get attacked and miss. You can get lots of free rounds on difficult battles like Chaos. Like if Chaos punches your statue, that's a free round. You take no damage, you can just buff up. And he's just an invincible meat shield.
Definitely very important. Chaos is a very long fight. Chaos here has been buffed compared to other versions to have 20,000 HP. He also has a very wide array of things he can do. He can attack. He has a lot of spells. Blizzara, which we hope to see as well, because it does very little. The more troublesome ones being Blizzaga, Thundaga, Faraga, as well as those even worse ones we don't want to see, Tsunami, Cyclone, Blaze, and then usually the one that ends up wiping you, Flare. He can also pull off a Slowra, which is very good to see if it's not on the monk. Earthquake, which by now all of our characters are immune to. And then depending on when it comes, that Curaja that he can do on himself. If he does that early, it's just a waste of a turn. If it does it later, once the monk has already started to do a lot of damage, it could be very detrimental to a run.
So Patorikku's haste user died before he got the haste. So he did a risky strategy that I tried doing yesterday of reviving the mage in battle, which just doesn't work a lot of the time because Chaos has so much AoE. And as mentioned in chat, I'm pretty sure Square Enix actually knows about it because they have it in all 6 versions of their game. All of the Pixel Remasters, 1 through 6, all have that same thing in there, and it hasn't changed in well over a year. And people were abusing this bug before their last games were even released. So Chaos doing Chaos things. It is very common for runners to die to Chaos 3 to 5 times on a run. When it starts getting over that, it starts getting the real unlucky territory.
And Trinton in chat talking about haste. Patorikku did pick up 2 haste, so both black mages have the ability to cast haste here.
Funknasty is entering the volcano to light up his final orb.
To talk about patching a little more, they also did patching back in August where they changed a lot of things for most of the other Pixel Remasters. FF1 got a pretty relaxed patch where they changed it, where your fleas are a little bit better, as well as changed the input for when you go to an inn. The first default slot is yes, you'll sleep in the inn, compared to before it was no, and you had to actually toggle to yes to sleep in that inn.
Quite annoying. I did not like doing that. It doesn't even make sense why you'd walk up to the inn, then she'd start off on no. It was a head scratcher for sure. So Patorikku is having an average time dealing with Chaos here. I'm surprised he didn't throw a full heal before that. Chaos wasting a heal on himself. great to see it now. Iraja is not a full heal like it is in some versions. It only heals up to 9,999 that you see being healed.
The other spell that Chaos can cast that I did not touch upon is Haste, which can be very bad if we see that early on. Chaos, instead of doing that 385, can do up to full, or even beyond, 999, and just wipe your monk in one shot. But if he does cast it twice on himself, it's a wasted turn since Haste can only be cast once to be effective. Anything after that doesn't add anything to it.
And there we go, GG Patorikku. Chaos did cast Haste near the end there, but he didn't punch afterwards. And Funknasty is about to start his Merilith 1 fight. Should be a nice easy battle. So yeah, I believe that was a third try for Patorikku, with quick death in there. That's pretty average for Chaos. I mean, different runners have different experiences with Chaos. I used to be a firm believer that Chaos wasn't as bad as what everybody said, because I usually only died to Chaos like once or twice. Then I started doing some races, and yeah, I'm now believing that Chaos can really just be that bad.
And down goes Malyrith. Nasty should now be moving on to the Temple of Fiends.
I'm not sure if he needs to do another shopping spree or not. I'm not sure the last time he purchased items. I personally didn't see.
It's a very interesting thing as well about the Pixel Remaster. For the Steam achievement, you have to sit through the in-game credits as well as the credits for the game, and then right at the end, when it asks you if you want to save your progress, will it give you the achievement for actually completing the game.
And the cutscene for the end is pretty lengthy. I'm not sure if it's 10 or like 20 minutes long, but it's a long one. Because you've got like the game credits itself, then you actually have all the people that worked on the game credits. But yeah, Chaos is pretty difficult. In some of the older routes of the game, back when we used white mages still, Chaos wasn't as much of an RNG fest as it is today. Because if you have white mages, you can cast Heal Aga every round, and that can heal up almost as much damage as a flare every round. So it doesn't really matter what he does, you can keep your whole party alive. And back when we used white mages, you would have a warrior just be your tank. And he could just throw items on your monk. So he could throw all the speed drinks, and you could get buffed up really quickly, and the Chaos fight would be nice and easy. But sadly, the rest of the run was just a lot slower, so that strategy got tossed to the side. The Chaos Shrine we go for Funknasty. His monk doesn't have quite as much HP as Patorikku's had, but it's over 350. That's the magic number, in my opinion. That's what I personally like to have, is 350 for Lich 2.
Yeah, 350 is a very good number to have for those flares. But you'll see the threshold most people take when they're going really fast, where they can just keep resetting for RNG, is around 300 for the monk and about 240 for the black mages. It makes it very RNG intensive, but usually allows you to flee a lot more fights.
doing the lucrative 4 green dragon battle. Always nice to see. And the Death Eye isn't much of a fight. You generally just fire Ega twice, and the Death Eye will go down. Do the same thing patorikku did, is lifting the gate first, then grabbing the elixir.
I like to do the elixir first. I usually don't get an encounter here, where I find the other way around, you usually get an encounter.
That's what I like to do also, but everybody has their preference. And, you know, maybe he wants the extra experience for if he gets to battle. So yeah, all of these floors have pretty good encounters to take. Like this fight right here is worth a good amount of experience. And can be taken out with one good Blizzaga. Sadly, he was still on auto battle from the Whiz Mummy battle, whatever they're called in this version. And the Chimeras do resist fire. Trying to take a lot of these battles, you have to switch around your spells quite on a lot of these floors. If you're trying to take the Frost Dragons, of course you don't want to use Blizzard. If you're trying to take the Chimeras, you don't want to be using Fire Ega. So if you're trying to take the extra experience, you definitely have to be ready to switch around your spells quite often.
Like Funknasty is definitely going for the more levels approach right here.
Yeah, he hit the strong level up at 30 for his monk. And it's possible that he's hoping for 32, because at 32 you get another guaranteed strong level up on monk, which would put him over 400. But even at level 31, that should guarantee he's at 399 plus. To have 999 after the... Yep, 401. So that'll be enough to have 999 after the 3 giant Sonics. Which I know some people like to have that as a good safety net. I mean, there have been times that I've survived Chaos with like 3 HP. You just never know how those damage rolls are gonna go.
These Earth Elementals, very good fights to take for experience. You can see them as early as, I believe in Marsh Cave, if I'm not mistaken.
Earth Cave is the first time you can see them.
Isn't there a forced encounter you can take in Marsh Cave if you're going not the conventional way around?
Not to my knowledge. I know at least on the NES version there are Cobras as a force and tile in there, and 2 other Pisco Demon fights in the key lock chest rooms. He was talking about the Earth Elemental friend. To my knowledge, even in this version, there are no Earth Elementals in the bottom of Marsh. But there definitely are in Earth Cave. They are also a rare encounter in Earth Cave that you can also find.
Ah, first floor of Earth Cave.
Yeah, the northeastern chest has one there. There's our first flare, hopefully the only flare we see. And there's also an Earth Elemental on floor 2 that's a force encounter.
And Lich 2 down.
Only one dead mage. That's acceptable.
Hello, Patorikku.
Hello. Hello, hello. How's it going?
Welcome in and GG on your run.
Thanks a lot. I was
Okay.
chaos being chaos a bit, but got through it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot worse in the last couple of days. So anything go unexpected on your run there, or
I got
about
no
what
mo-
you'd expect?
Yeah, the early game I just got no money on the way to Elfland, so the Thundara spell and just said, all right, let me just go grab some money here. That was a bit annoying, and then Tiamat 1 just spamming all the big AoEs. I was like, oh, come on.
Yup, she's just harder than Tiamat 2 most of the time.
Yep.
For different
much.
reasons. Tiamat 2 is usually she punches your monk, and that's the end. But Tiamat 1 is just all those powerful AoEs. Doesn't have the weak third tier black magic that Tiamat 2 has for some odd reason. Funknasty's working on his second Fiend refight. Generally the most tame one. But I'm pretty sure most people that have ran the game have died to her at some point. Not to mention the NES deaths to her.
Oh yeah. When I was looking for a sub 2, I had a really good PB, except for dying to carry 2 or Merilith 2 here. And I was like, if I hadn't died to her, I would have gotten sub 2 a lot earlier than I did.
Yeah, sub 2 is definitely a good break point for a lot of runners. It takes a while to get there. Sub 215 is like the first major benchmark. Then sub 2 is the next goal. Then getting further than that takes a lot of dedication. Because, oh boy, the RNG.
Oh, definitely. A lot of these speedruns there's just a moment where just something just clicks, and then you're able to just save a lot more time in your next run. You definitely see that a lot.
I know every time I've made it PB, I've looked and been like, man, I can save at least 5 minutes if things just go a little better for me. Which they never do. They never do.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Just it's a relatively short run, and it just always just still feels like something goes wrong.
But at least it's a lot safer run overall thanks to quick saves. That makes life so much better. Since coming from the NES, we can only save on the overworld. If you have a death to any major fight, you're just restarting.
As a caveat to that, if nothing goes wrong, then when you get to Chaos, he's just going to troll you.
Now, one good thing about NES is Chaos isn't quite as deadly as he is in this run. But the rest of the run is a lot worse. This one, Chaos is his own unique brand of boss.
Yeah, the NES Kraken 2 is just absolutely awful, whereas this one, not really too bad.
Well, he's also terrible on the NES because we're level 19 compared to being level 30 something? Yeah, if Chaos only had 10,000 HP, you wouldn't need to buff quite as much, and you could probably just try and take him out a lot quicker. But that's not the case. Having 20k HP, you really want to be doing 3k plus damage a swing.
Yeah, and the Chaos fight that I finally got through with, I thought I was buffed up enough, and then I had a couple hits there that were like 17 and 16. I was like, oh, that's a little weak. So
Yeah,
dropped
I always
a couple more Giant's gloves, and after that I was doing 4,000. I was like, all right, I got this.
I try to count in my head how many buffs I have, but sometimes you just miss it. And Funknasty getting the Iron Golem battle, which used to be very rare, I feel like is a lot more common in this version. He has got very high physical absorption and resists all elements except for thunder, I believe.
I think the chaos damage once you start to swing is always where we as Final Fantasy 1 runners hold our breath and just see if it's going to be 2k or if it's going to be 4k or coming out of it.
Yeah, sometimes you think you've buffed enough, then you're quite surprised with the amount of damage you're doing. It's really great when you think you're doing enough damage and you hit him for like 600 and you're like, what'd I miss?
Yeah, and then when he hits you with the slow to just to add insult to injury.
And it's definitely easier when you have both of your mages with haste. Some runners like to only have a single haste user, which makes Chaos fight very sketchy. So if he kills that one mage, you're just kinda like, well, now I'm not doing any damage. Tiamat 2 is playing pretty nicely here.
Yeah,
Even punching a mage.
3k.
Yeah, punching the mage isn't bad. It's the same mage that died last time too. He just doesn't want to survive, and he's the one who shouldn't be targeted as much. But you know how RNG is. Your characters that aren't supposed to be hit just seem to be the ones who get hit. So Funknasty coming up on Chaos here. Maybe he'll have a nice quick kill on Chaos. It's always a possibility. You just hope for Chaos to play nice.
I'm just not gonna let him go.
Yeah, if you fail to flee too long on these guys, they can nuke you down. And
There it is.
the Vampire Lord's melee attacks are also very powerful. They don't feel as bad on this version compared to like the NES, but they still do hit hard. I think that's because on the NES they just attack a lot more often. And they can like one-shot your black mages. I've definitely had that happen before. So Funknasty's got over 400 HP on his monk, so he can survive one melee swing from Chaos if he's unfortunate enough to get punched right away. And he will have enough HP to hit 9999 after 3 giant attacks.
Oh, and that first black mage is getting targeted immediately. I'm not sure if he did a double haste buy.
He did get a double haste buy.
He did?
Yeah, some runners like to try to get a haste before the Giant's tonics. I'm split on that. Sometimes I want to get a haste right away, and other times I just risk it.
Yeah, there's multiple ways you can set it up. I've seen people set up their buffs beforehand. They'll have their monk be included in the Giant's tonics, and some will just keep the monk exclusively doing Giant's gloves. It really just depends.
And that's unfortunate. Waited just too long to get that haste up, and his Black Mage got flared down. If he gets good turn order here, it can work out.
On a flare.
Double flare. Very rude, Chaos.
Oof.
I feel like we've seen some double flares today.
Yeah, I got double flared on Lich 2. That was not fun.
Funknasty just got triple flared there by Chaos. I'm pretty sure he only has a 5% chance to cast flare.
I think we've seen a couple of those where Temple of Fiends, there'll be someone kind of gatekeeping, trying to give the second runner a chance to catch up here. Today it was Lich for patorikku.
Hopefully he'll play nice. Chaos runs the show here. Whatever he decides, well. And he is nice. He likes statues.
Yeah, there's very wide variation on this. You could have a Chaos that just keeps hitting that warrior, petrified warrior in that first slot and give you the easiest, or just kill your monk from the get-go and take the black mages out pretty quickly, or just toy with them with Blizzaras and whatnot.
Tsunami's not great, and his monk is looking a little sketchy on health, but if he gets good turn order, he can at least stay in it still. He's got up 2 Giant's Gloves and 1 Speed Drink.
On the flare again.
Chaos doing Chaos things.
Oof.
You know, you just hope to see an Earthquake or punching the fighter.
Or even a Kiraja early on would be really nice to see.
Even a Slowra on the monk is acceptable in the early game. As long as your mages are still alive and can make it up, it's still fine. It's not killing anyone. Yeah, early Kiraja is definitely good. Haste is also fine if he never punches your monk, which you never bank on because he loves to punch the monk. Blizzara is good.
Good opener.
It's a very weak. It's his weakest AoE skill that he has. Like this.
Is that slower
just-
you're talking about?
Yeah, he can just haste it back up. It's kind of a free round. He gets 2 free buffs on it, if you think about it. As long as he hastes again, it's just fine. But he has to haste again.
Looks like he's gonna avoid that haste. Go with a protect drink.
It's
Here's where those
possible.
protect drinks from earlier come into play.
Yeah, I was saying he would probably use them on Tail, try to blunt the damage. And it's possible he didn't notice his monk got hit by slow. The monk can still kill Chaos without fast, but it's gonna take twice as many rings to do it. His monk can survive a melee attack, thanks to the protect drinks. I believe protect drinks give 10 bonus absorption, which gives you an extra. He has 2 tonics up, so that's an extra 20 less damage per swing on him. And that's an unfortunate elixir usage.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Alright, so he is getting the black mage back up.
He's
I
getting
don't
that
think
haste
that
in.
is good.
But yeah, he did.
Oh,
Notice the haste looks like. That's good.
just immediately hit by that tsunami.
Yeah, we haven't seen his monk take a melee hit to see what it actually does. But he should take 20 less damage per swing. Chaos has 2 swings,
Oh.
So that blunts about 40 damage from a hit. And it would be 80 damage taken off from the hasted Kraken, or hasted Chaos.
Cyclone, unfortunately. Good damage, though.
He'd have to get very lucky, but it's possible.
He's going for it. Oh.
Ooh.
That's
Chaos gave him a small chance, just a glimmer of hope, then he took it away.
Looks like he's going to take a few extra steps to that good luck RNG change.
Yep, I've definitely seen people do that. I'm not gonna name any names, though. I was actually doing that in both of my latest runs, as I was dying to Chaos 8 or 10 times a piece in my last couple runs.
So since there's no seed in the game, there's no real tangible way to know if those steps made any difference. But
Well,
I think as a runner, it definitely makes you feel a little better that, hey, the scenario's different now that I've taken a couple extra steps.
as far as we know, fights are frame-based, and I've seen runners and experienced it myself where we get the exact same Chaos RNG multiple fights in a row. And so sometimes taking those steps definitely changes the frame that you're going to talk to Chaos, since you're running around instead of just mashing A to talk to it. You don't necessarily have to move around, you can just wait a second and not talk to it, but there are also times you're frustrated. Because when Chaos uses his powerful skills, there's not much you can do about it.
Yep. 2 cyclones, like he just did, or tsunamis or blazes, can easily just end the fight as quickly as it started.
Hopefully this is the one. Punching a black mage isn't great, but you can still win with a black mage down.
Much better than getting hit for that monk.
The flare is painful. Well, the monk actually has enough hit points to survive one swing.
Well, sure.
Okay,
Good
that's
turn
not
there.
bad at all.
And he's gonna get the haste off. Good setup.
So this is an acceptable start right here. You have the bare minimum of buffs up from the mages, and a full health monk. I definitely like to get speed drinks up right away. Some runners want to throw out more tempers. It's just preference, I guess.
Yeah, I used to be a temper person, and then I think it was Thunderclaw. I think it was a race between you, Shanezill, and Thunderclaw earlier this week. And Thunder just ripped through 3 speed drinks right off the bat, and it was doing 32 hits.
That's
like,
what a lot of the
there
high-level
you go.
strategies do. Because even if you're short like 1 saber, you can still manage with that. Didn't get good turn order there, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, if you want to play it safe on Chaos, you will throw your healing item anytime you're down to like 400, 450 health. But sometimes people like to play it risky. I know I play it risky a lot of the time. Like, I can survive like a Thundaga.
And then get punched for 400 damage.
He punched a different mage this time,
Into a
and
flare.
flared again. See, that's what I'm meaning by like sometimes you see like the same thing. That was a little bit different though. He did punch a different person, but it was still very similar. Like, he punched somebody then flared right away.
That's an acceptable punch there. The monk can take it.
Yeah, it's not great, but it's actually better than the black mage getting hit. If you're playing it safe, you would definitely elixir now, because that can happen.
An 828, not exactly where we want to be, but high enough here. It should give Funknasty some room to breathe.
Chaos does not fast himself, then he can survive a swing or two.
Looks like we're down to our last elixir. And there's
the haste. He better only punch the fighter. And he's a little shy on his sabers.
Yep, so he has the amount of hits he wants. 24 is very acceptable, but there's not enough attack.
I'm surprised that he went for the risky revival instead of just Giant's Gloving.
Yeah, Giant's Glove there will just take care of the extra attack.
Yeah, most of the time it's safer to just leave the monk by himself to increase your attack. But sometimes the Phoenix Downs do pay off. And sabers also increase your accuracy. As you saw, he got an extra 4 swings by using saber an extra 2 times.
Oof. And Chaos punching. 770 damage. I mean, yeah, like if he was max HP, he would have been able to survive that, but yeah, not where he was.
Not something you like to see on Chaos, because he does have a 40% chance to melee. And that doesn't feel nice when it hits your monk. The only way to prevent yourself from dying to that is by spamming Protectra or a lot of Protectrix. And I mean a lot. You have to bump your physical absorption up to like 200 if you really want to blunt his attack. And that takes some dedication.
So what you'll see here is he's trying to end the fight early. Just by defending, pretty much anything's still going to kill that black mage, but by not taking that extra turn on his side, should end the fight a lot quicker, and relying on that quick save.
Yeah, there is no soft reset in this game. So the quickest way to get back to your old save is to just die. You can force close the game, but then you've got to reopen the application, which takes time, and with some people it really messes with their controller settings. Sometimes it doesn't even register that your controller's plugged in, and all sorts of stuff like that. So it's generally best to just die if you can die in a good amount of time. And Earthquake is a perfect opener.
Going for the speed drink throw. He's gonna have the monk do the X potion. Really good Blizzara here. Nice turn.
Ideal start for like anyone. You can't hope for much better than that. Like, you can get better, but you can't expect it. Chaos being this nice is pretty rare. And Fire Rega also isn't bad. His mages can still survive another spell.
Yeah, the main reason we try to get our mages to 240 or above is for those double Faraga chart hits. To survive 2 of those spells, maybe even one of the stronger tsunamis or cyclones.
Flare's unfortunate, but he did get a lot of buffs up, so it's not too bad. He's in a good spot here as long as he doesn't get hurt too much before he heals.
Hopefully some good turn order here. Oh, Earthquake, giving it to him.
Oof,
nice, really nice to see the Earthquake there.
Stopped my heart there for a second.
A little bit more. Oh, unfortunately got the haste. Into a flare. Ooh.
So the problem with this haste on Chaos is he needs to be full to survive a punch. So hopefully the monk does not get meleeed.
I got 4,000 damage. Going for it.
Ooh.
That always hurts to see.
Just need like 2 more hits there to get like 12,000 damage on him. Very well set up too.
Yeah, you can get just a phenomenal setup like that into just flare, attack. So RNG is really just the big proponent here, and you know, if you get lucky enough to have queued an elixir and get your turn off beforehand, could also save you. So again, no wrong way to do this fight.
Oh, there are wrong ways to do it.
Well,
If you
there's a lot of
don't
different
buff.
ways to do it. But there's nothing really going wrong here on Funknasty's side other than just really bad RNG.
Yeah, Chaos does that to everyone. We've all had bad Chaos run. And a lot of times if you're just doing it casually and it's not your first run, when things go poorly for a long time, a lot of times it's common to just give up. But we're not doing that yet. Trying to get past this guy. Even though he's a jerk. Lots of strong skills all in a row there. His monk just took like 1,000 damage in like 3 rounds. This is a big pickup point for some people. Sometimes when you're ahead in a run, you can just get caught on chaos and the other runner can catch up real fast. That's definitely happened before to some people. I think we've had 2 first try chaoses so far in this whole tournament.
It's Chaos being rude. This is a very tough fight though, and just sometimes it just slips away from you. Whatever you do, Chaos just counters and eventually just tosses a flare out or punches your monk, and then that's it.
Yeah, especially with the above HP on the black mages, above HP on the monk. Yeah, even being over leveled here, it can go sideways really quick. Like Funknasty might be throwing in the towel here.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Which is understandable. Chaos can sometimes do this to you. Alright, he's gonna give it one more go. I mean, I know with my runs, I've had 2 races so far, and I think one took me 8 attempts to beat Chaos, and the next time took me 10.
Then the one after that just gives it to you immediately. I mean, it's just definitely all over the place.
Yeah, that'll be my worst run out of all of them, too.
Yep, you'll just be 10 minutes behind, and Chaos is like, alright, here you go.
Alright, got the haste off.
Haste, we got our HP.
Yeah, the haste and maxing out the monk's HP and healing him, I think, is like the bare minimum of what you want the mages to do. If you can throw out the 3 bonus speed drinks, that's great. And
Looks like we
Tempers
got 'em
is just
all.
a bonus. Looks like we got all the speed drinks out too. As long as Chaos is nice and doesn't punch the monk, he should be pretty good. He should be about ready to start attacking.
Well, a lot of good hits to the first slot here.
Yep, Stony paying off. These statues. Alright, Black Mage down. Just needs a good heal. And he should be able to start punching Chaos and doing some good damage.
Ooh.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that's it for Funknasty.
Yep, looks like that's gonna be all. Well,
Yeah.
it was a good run. Chaos does chaos things. Unfortunate, but it does happen.
Yeah, that last attempt there, he was caught in like a really weird amount of HP. So he got hit twice to take him out. And, you know, he was what, like over 500 before the first big hit came for him?
Yep, he was over 500.
If you really want to heal to full when you're over 500, but then he gets hit, and now all of a sudden he's under 200, and
Yeah,
after that.
I personally almost always risk it when I have 500 HP. Which doesn't always pay off. If you can get punched, then next thing you know, or like a flare, then a tsunami, and it's like, well, there's 2 of his strongest skills.
Yeah. Yeah, good attempt though. That's a really difficult fight. It'll do what it wants to do.
Yeah, Chaos, he owns the casino. He makes his own rules.
All right. Yeah, Shinzo, Captain, thanks a lot for doing the commentary for this. Really appreciate it. I had a good time.
Yep.
Looking forward to doing my next races.
Oh yeah, and good luck in the future attempts.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right. For anyone in chat looking to run this, there are a lot of good guides and resources out at speedrun.com in the guides section. We would also like to thank SpeedGaming for hosting our tournament. It's been really fun so far. I've had a lot of fun. It was a blast commentating with you too, Shane.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So make sure to follow SpeedGaming here, because they have a lot of fun stuff going on. They have at least 6 channels, SpeedGaming, and then 2 through 6. But until next time, I was Captain of the Dorks.
Take care, everyone.